in the UK market. I think it's really, really important to talk about them and show some light. Obviously, there are many different takes. We are going to show one of them. There are countless others, and the idea is to explore. So we're going to start, and from the title. The prototypal, why I named the varieties prototypal, and I believe they are. The word, the name means first form and original, and denotes native, first origin, bears defining characteristics for a group of similar entities. And although prototypes can be reproduced, the copies often do not exhibit the full character of the original, lack precision, power, and expression or complexity. So in that sense, it's going to be interesting to see how these grape varieties hold this character of being prototypal. So we have grape varieties here, two grape varieties that are being used for a long time for grape production, for wine production in their regions, in their areas, original native areas, but now are traveling outside their areas with great success. They're expressing the terroir characteristics in a bold and precise way. They are complex enough. They are stylistically very diverse. They are fluent and have a very special character, which is difficult to replicate. So Malagousia has been named the Cinderella of Greek wine in an article of a Greek lifestyle magazine back in 2015, which I thought is a really fitting term. In the sense that it started as an identifiable Greek grape variety, and later on commercially successful variety, white variety, since the mid-70s from a small planting somewhere in Western Greece. It drew the attention of a university professor of ambelography and enology, and he shared this interest with one of his students, which later on became one of the major Greek wine producers. The variety has been planted extensively in northern Greece vineyards at the beginning. So initially the vineyard where the Greek winemaker was doing his consultation, and later on his own vineyard has been the flagship grape variety of his winery, and marked his itinerary and his contribution in Greek wine. So I guess most of you know names, and we are going to come back to that. So that's Malagousia, the Cinderella of Greek wine, and then we have Xinomavro, which I thought a very fitting term will be the Excalibur of Greek grapes. And that's, I think, a first of this term, in the sense that it's a multipotent and shiny grape variety, and it can give basically every style of wine possible. It's a red grape variety, but it's very it can give really appetizing blanc de noirs, sparkling wines, rosés, reds, young, barrel aged, sweet wines. I think it can do anything. It can do anything, pretty much like the magical sword of King Arthur. So in that sense, I think these two grapes are a matter of fables. So distinct and powerful, and I think they have found their moment in time. I think they have found the right current in the history of Greek wine to become really shiny and attractive and almost magical. So Where do we find them in Greece, these two grape varieties? So Malagousia is, as you know, a white variety, which originally started its itinerary from Western Greece, from somewhere around here, the coast of the Western Greece. As I said, the university professor Logothetis identified the variety, studied the variety, and then with his student, Mr. Gerovasiliou, planted down here the variety in the Chalkidiki Peninsula, which then went on to be planted further north in the area of Thessaloniki. And as I said, it's been the flagship of the Gerovasiliou winery grape variety. From then on,
Maria, sorry, just to, I think there's some people that are having problems with the view and can't quite see yourself and the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint might be small. I'm not sure how you're viewing it. I've got the PowerPoint large and yourself sort of in the screen.
I have to tell you that I cannot see you, so I don't know. Is it on purpose that I cannot?
Yeah, that should be. Oh, it seems fine for. Oh, okay, I think maybe there's a view button on the top right corner. If some people click on that, who maybe can't quite see both, then yeah, switch from desktop right corner. Maybe try that, and then you can watch it in different formats. Okay, lots of people whose view is good. That's great. Great. All right then. Oh, sorry. Oh,
no
yeah.
worries. If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Yeah. No, I think we're good now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So we're in Greece. So we said Malagousia started from Western Greece, from midway west and very much on the coast, basically, moved north to the Thessaloniki area, and then moved across in different radius, in different radia. But truly, it covered all mainland. It has been such a successful grape variety, and we will see later on why, that moved all across Greece, from east to west, from the very east of the country, all across the north and the west, Epirus, Central Greece, we have an example here, Athens area, Peloponnese, very successful there, and across to the Aegean Sea. Lots of plantings on the islands, and very, very successful within the Cyclades complex of island, which is southern of Athens, lies southern of Athens, 50 so islands in the sort of center of the Aegean Sea. Cyclades means circle, means an island complex arranged in a circle. So we've got the complex here. The very center of the complex geographically, it's been identified to be Paros Island, is where we are going to show a wine from. And that is geographically. So it is considered that the radius all across the different islets of the complex is more or less equal from Paros. And also very important grape variety on the island of Rhodes. In some of these islands, and it's part of their white PDO classification, this variety. So PDO classification is not homogeneous in Greece. In some areas, in some regions, it's the grape variety that is important and plays the leading role. In other areas, it's the style of wine, and some other areas have been pulled into the PDO system by importance, historical importance, or social importance. So, as I say, Malagousia is part of the PDO classification on some of the islands. So, and then we have Xinomavro, who which is an important grape variety, PDO variety, with home possibly the center of Macedonia, Greek Macedonia. I know there's been a bit of confusion as the northern neighbor of Greece is named North Macedonia, and clearly the whole region has been given this name. This is not unusual. And we have a very good example in the wine world that I think will be easy for us to not get confused, and that's Tyrol. Tyrol is part of eastern, southern Austria, as well as part of northern Italy, originally in the Bavarian kingdom. So there is North Tyrol and South Tyrol. But obviously there we're not talking about countries, we are talking about districts. But anyhow, the northern part of Greece is named Macedonia for a very long time. And then north of Greece lies a country named North Macedonia. So that should be easy. But I just, for clarity, I have put the same goes for Thrace, is a region on the east, part of which is Greece, belongs to the Greek territory. So Xinomavro, as I said, is cultivated in Thrace, northern eastern Greece, Macedonia, Epirus on the west of the country, and Thessaly. It is a variety that opts for cooler climates. So I think somewhere around here, if you can see my cursor, the journey of Xinomavro south stops for the time being, at least. And we have the southernmost planting here in Atalandi. But it's a variety that it's very much appreciated in the center and north of the country. And you will see it's a variety that shares 4 PD origins, which is, I think, shows how important it is in the Greek wine world. And I have to say that there has been some plantings now, experimental plantings of Xinomavro in China. So hopefully that territory of Xinomavro will grow further. So now going back to the grapes and talking a little bit more about the grapes, I've got a spoiler photo here. I've got Malagousia here on the right, but I've got 2 more grape varieties. That's from the winery where the grape variety will be tasted today. This the second winery, the Paros winery. So that's Malagousia, has a compact bunch of largest grains, largest fruit. Again, it depends on the terroir. Then we've got Monemvasia down here. It's another important white variety, quite important in the Cyclades and southern Peloponnese. And then we've got a Rhoditis type of grape. This one is an edible grape here. But I think, although I don't have the focus only on Malagousia here, I think it's a good slide to see comparable differences and characteristics between the grapes. So as we said earlier, Malagousia's recent journey, and identifiable journey starts in the 70s, in mid-70s, when there was research on grape varieties, and there was a quest to identify interesting varieties. So Professor Logothetis identified this variety on the western part of Greece, and alongside his then student, Mr. Gerovasiliou, studied further and planted the variety in the vineyards of northern Greece, which then was replanted further and became associated with Gerovasiliou's winery output. So as we said earlier, also Malagousia is now cultivated throughout the Greek mainland and on most Aegean islands. It's a vigorous and productive grape variety, and that's why it's a successful one. So it's easily planted, managed, and can withtake drought, but not botrytis or downy mildew. So dry, arid climates are beneficial. On the contrary, damp environments do not favor the grape. So it's an early budding and early ripening grape. We have early harvests, and they become more early as we now have warmer summers. And it has compact bunches of large berries and thin skins. So in that sense, there are similarities between the two grapes, the white and the red grape we chose for today. There is an uncertain number of clones. There hasn't been a genetic study on the variety, and we think that there may be more than one clones because we have vines that give different types of bunches and berries. So we have vines that produce smaller berries and higher acidity fruit. But on the other hand, this may have to do with a terroir or may have to do with a training method as well. It's a variety with medium body, medium alcohol, but full on character. It's a great blender, blends beautifully with other more bold varieties, and a very, very successful blend is that of Malagousia and Acidity. And a few winemakers have tapped on that blend, and gives a variety of styles, similar, but not obviously as many as Xinomavro, being a wide variety, but can give a variety of styles, including barrel-aged, natural styles, sweet wines, and potentially others. And I'm speculating here on sparkling wines. We haven't got that yet. But for a wide grape variety, it gives a variety of styles. And the reason for that is a very interesting phenolic character. So Xinomavro is a noble variety, as we said earlier. It originates from the central Macedonia of Greece, of Greek land. It's a region that is known for winemaking and wine drinking since the Homeric times. There is a theory about Alexander the Great's death. Some people say that he fell ill on the expedition to India. Some people say that he was killed during a drinking session. So Macedonia is known since ancient times for winemaking and wine drinking. So we believe that Xinomavro originates from the uplands of Nausa town, where the largest PDO for the variety lies, and the most wineries as well. So we've got altogether 4 PDO regions, 3 in Macedonia, Greek Macedonia, and 1 in Thessaly, further south. So the PDO regions of the north is Nausa, Womenissa, and Amideo. Nausa is definitely the most, the largest and the most well-known PDO. The vineyards lie at about 300 meters of altitude. It's a very interesting secluded area. Different orientations. Womenissa is more to the north, higher altitude, and forest, conifer and oak forests nearby. Amideo is north and west, and we are near big water natural reservoirs, lakes there. And Rapsani is down south in Thessaly. So we discussed the distribution of the grape variety and the plantings earlier on. So Xinomavro is also vigorous and productive, but obviously ripens later. It's a mid-budding and late ripener, so we have harvests in October. Well, depending on the vineyards' preferences and styles, preferred styles, but normally it is harvested late September onwards. So the trees produce medium bunches of largest berries, not as compact as Malagousia, and definitely thin-skinned. It's a delicate grape variety, susceptible to drought and rain. and also to botrytis and downy mildew, less to powdery mildew. There are 3 known clones based on the DNA analysis that was carried out in 2013. And it's a grape variety that was produced naturally by a crossing of Gouais Blanc, an unknown partner. There is a variety of styles, as we said already, and at its most pronounced expression, which is suitable for long aging. And these are the barrel-aged wines. It has a pale red color with touches on the garnet, medium to high alcohol, full body, broad range of flavors, and full on character, and is also a good blender, although the winemakers in the PDO regions, they prefer obviously not, so that they express and they deliver the full character of the grape. But for areas and wineries outside these zones, I think it can deliver very interesting wines in blends as well. So we have 3 wines today to taste, and we will be spending a bit of time to go through this, and I would appreciate your comments. So we have a Malagousia, a single variety wine, organic and natural, from the center of Greece, from Thessaly. Then we have a rosé wine from Paros, which is mostly Malagousia with a tiny bit of Mavro Tragano, a red variety of the Aegean Sea, just for the color, and a little bit of twist of the flavor, character, and a bit of tannin, a tiny bit of tannin. But this wine is over 95% Malagousia, so I thought it's a good wine to show that other side of Malagousia, because I believe due to its aromatics, Malagousia definitely can produce beautiful rosé wines. And then we have a Xinomavro from Menisa, which is the northernmost PDO of Xinomavro. So, and the red wine is of 2009, so we have 10 years aging potential to show with regards to the other 2 wines. Obviously not comparable, this is a red wine, but it's interesting to see the effect of aging on Xinomavro. So Xinomavro is possibly the grape variety with the most aging potential in Greece. So the first white wine comes from a winery of the center of Greece, from the Thessaly region, whereas all the work is done with minimal intervention. It's a natural winery. It's one of the wineries that got organic certification before others, and before it became a trendy thing in Greece. So we are going to taste that. I will be tasting, if that's okay. So I've got my Coravin here, and I don't know if any of you is doing that, but I will rely on Richard to transfer any comments. So we've got here a pale lemon wine. And I think what we are looking in over here is the aromas of Malagousia. So Malagousia is a variety that is quite aromatic and with a distinct character. So we have very attractive summer fruit aromas. This can range depending on the region, depending on the cultivation, depending on the preferred style. But commonly we find nectary, melon, pear, ripe pear, and this can extend in either way. So we could have some exotic fruit, we can have apricot and peach, but I'm sort of putting here the core of the flavor profile of the grape variety, and where this wine lies as well. And then to the side of that we have some herbal aromatics, notably basil and lemon thyme, sometimes green bell pepper, So there's definitely a green side, and that's what gives interest and gives also aging potential to this variety. And again, depending on the terroir, we may be able to see mineral notes as well.
Maria, there's been a question about describing the terroir for each wine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's very pleasant. So in Karditsa, we are in the sort of a center of Greece. We are at a plateau of about 200 to 300 meters there. It's a basin of quite tall mountains that come. Lime is a prevalent sort of soil for Greece. So we have limestone, but also because of Greece's very interesting geological history, we also have sand, and we also have arid porous stone there, which is not pure limestone. So the concentration in calcium can vary. So it can be more sand rather than calcium. So that's for Thessaly. On the island further on, we will see we have more sand, and also on Paros Island. Interesting, we have hard rock in the deeper layers of the soil, depending on the age of the vineyard. And then up in Kilkis, we have again rock, limestone. So limestone mostly, and clay as well. So so that's that. Again, I will be taking questions further on. Then moving on to Paros, the Paros Island. It's Paros Island is, generally speaking, a flattish island, but very, very interesting. It's been the mine for a very high quality marble, white marble. Lots of ancient Greek temples were constructed with marble from Paros, especially on the Aegean Sea and on the islands, because we have very good marble from the mainland as well. And it's in the center of the Aegean, so relatively protected. The islands that lie on the periphery of that ring, they are more exposed to strong winds. So inner islands, obviously they are exposed to a lot of breeze, but not the strong winds of the outer islands here. And it's because of the marble element. I think it's an island that it's been kept cool, in the sense that there is a refraction and refraction of sun rays, as well as sea breeze. So I think overall it's a cool island. It's a cool island to be on, but I think geologically it's a cool island, but not with high altitude. So it's a low altitude, and you can see the vineyard here. It's a flattish vineyard, great circulation of air. It's an organic farm that focuses on grapes. I would call it more like that. But interestingly, the winemaker comes from a winemaking family and has a long engagement with grapes, grape growing and winemaking. So that's a rosé. So I will be tasting with you, and please feel free to add comments. I just needed to say, in terms of style, these wines are low alcohol. So we had 13% alcohol on the previous one, depending on the years. We are now into warmer years as well. We have to take this into account. I mean, as a preference and as a style, these wineries, they choose low alcohol, big flavor, low alcohol. So here we have a 12% alcohol for this year. It was 11.5% last year, the previous year, and we just received the 2020. So we wait to see how this year has been, but we do see, generally speaking, higher alcohol now in the wines because of the hotter and sometimes shorter, very fast, quick summers and hot summers. But still here, we managed to keep it at 12%. So we said 95% and over Malagousia on this one. So it's a certified organic winery. The winemaking of the previous wine is made with native yeasts, so nothing added in terms of fermentation facilitation. Here we have some organic commercial yeast as well on this one. So there is a lot of clarity. There is a lot of clarity of flavors as well. You will probably notice some stylistic sweetness on this wine. So we are the ripe grapes are used. It's more of a sweet aromas rather than sweetness in the wine itself. And as we said, it's Malagousia and Mavro. Sometimes the winery can use also Moraitico, which is a more sweet and fatter grape, but not this year. So this year we have the pure Malagousia and a bit of Mavro. I think on this wine, we have the aromatic character of Malagousia super expressed, very expressed. And I think Malagousia managed to find really a fitting home on the islands, on the Aegean islands. I think it's a variety that will surprise you from everywhere in Greece. So I would suggest to try as many examples as you can, because you will be able to actually, one, identify the variety, but also through different expressions, but also see the range of the flavors the variety offers. So I would say try many, and definitely try Malagousias from the islands. I think the salinity of the sea, the breeze, the cool environment definitely suits the grape and adds to the character. So that's our rosé wine. I would love your comments, but I will move on so we can have hopefully at the end. So our last wine is Xinomavro from the north, from the northernmost PDO region. Now, interestingly, and we've got an interesting phenomenon here. We said that there are 4 PDO regions for Xinomavro, and Oumenissa is one of them. It's a region where Xinomavro can be blended, or even should be blended for a PDO classification, with Negoska, which is a relative, not as expressive grape, but a relative grape to Xinomavro. And within the PDO regulations, it can be allowed by 20% into the blend, and the wine therefore acquires the status of PDO. Interestingly, single varietal Xinomavro is not a PDO in this region. It's only the blend. So I think, you know, that that doesn't serve the bottle so well. But yes, it's one of the things to perhaps look into in the future. So here we have 100% Xinomavro from one of the Xinomavro's PDO on its own though. And it's a 2009 wine with a 13.5% alcohol. It's been aged for 12 months in oak barrels, and they are not first use barrels. It's actually more than third use barrels. This is a natural winery, one of the first natural wineries of Greece. And there is, obviously, there are native yeasts used, and no other intervention, and minimal sulfites on bottling. So all these wines that we tasted all of them, they are certified organic wines. They have a small amount of sulfites, all of them. Obviously, there is I believe, a little bit more. So they are not zero sulfites. They are natural with limited amount of sulfites on bottling, but not fully natural. So I'm interested to see every such bottle is very interesting. So I'm interested to see this one. I believe many of you have tasted Xinomavros, or hopefully you will. And the first thing to note here is the color. Xinomavros have pale color, which obviously turn more brown, garnet and brown with time. Very pronounced nose and very extensive flavor profile. I don't know how many of you can taste the wine. It tastes very young, very fresh. So we are now almost 12 years on, and it's a still tight wine. Very interesting, as I said, flavor range. Xinomavros have a combination of forest red fruit, tomato fruit, tomato stalk, black olive, spice, chocolate, cacao cusps, lots of different flavors, botanical notes. It's a very, very interesting expressive variety. And I think from a place that sort of preserves its character, like this winery, you can see one of the owners there creating soil for the winery by keeping the stalks, the seeds and the stalks of the grapes, and recycling it into the winery. So with regards to Greek wine, and I would like to extend the discussion with you, I think the differences that we see coming now to AIDS is, and I think that shows maturity, is that we see an increased number of small scale projects, which I think they pump in hope for quality and diversity in the future. We definitely see a turn to sustainable projects in terms of sustainable cultivation, less intervention winemaking, but also sustainable projects in the sense that there is a connection with the land and there is a responsibility over the farmed fruit, also in production-wise. And we expect to see more synergies that will enlarge the picture, increase productivity and enhance quality. So the photos on the presentation, they are mostly mine. And I will welcome any comments, anything you would like to ask. I will stop sharing the screen. But before I do that, I just want to thank one of our partners, Olivology, for providing the pack, the tasting pack. It's available through their website. It's a London-based deli. They import fantastic food from Greece. And moreover, and most importantly, thank the school for hosting the webinar, the Greek winemakers, the ones that obviously provided these wines, and everyone else that is elevating constantly the standard of Greek wine, and all drinkers and lovers of wine, who we believe will continue to show support to Greek wine and continue learning, as there is lots to learn on Greek wine. So I will stop sharing the screen and I will invite a discussion and comments.
Hi Maria, thank you so much for that, taking us through such a diverse and historic wine region, and yeah, talking us through those wines has certainly whetted the appetite. So yeah, it was really interesting. There's been yeah, a number of questions. I'm not sure if you can see the chat, there's sort of the Q&A section as well.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Dionysus was drinking Xinomavro. I did not know that far back. I think Dionysus would drink everything. I think he was a big traveler and a bit mischievous. So I don't think he restricted himself to just Xinomavro.
I'm sure that could be a debate all evening. That whether it was the first wine produced.
I believe, yes. I mean, that's quite an interesting topic. I think what grape varieties and in what form they existed in the ancient times. We do have records about sweet wine production in Greece. We have records about aromatic wines. In those times, it was the region, the growing region that was important, not so much varieties. We have reports about deeply colored wines, red wines from the north of Greece. We believe that perhaps Mavroudi, Thracian Mavroudi, and Limno were in a similar comparable form back in the ancient times, but also aromatic varieties, as I said, and anything suitable for sweet winemaking. So I think, we have to approach different eras with the standards of the era. But yes, I think every approach is beneficial because we do learn through that.
Then there's, I was going to say, there's another question here about where Xinomavro came from, where it travelled from Italy, and it also links into what's been put on the chat about comparisons with Nebbiolo. I don't know if it's possible to talk about where you think the origins come, whether it came from Italy and the similarities.
Absolutely. I think with a genetic analysis that I mentioned earlier of 2013, it was shown that it is a grape variety that was naturally formed with a gray blanc grape, and this takes us away from that theory that it is related to Nebbiolo or Pinot Blanc. So there has been this theory that it relates genetically to either Nebbiolo or Pinot Blanc, and I think with that identification, with that analysis, I think we are moving away from that. Now, how this happened, what kind of journeys of people led to that, at what stage of history, I think possibly science will give us the opportunity to identify time zones within which certain events happened. We are not there yet. That would be interesting, but I think through that analysis, we are going away from that theory of Nebbiolo genetic relation.
Yeah, so yeah, genetically sort of moving away, but I think certain characteristics, there sort of still might be some crossover and comparison between the two. Seems to be picked up upon.
Absolutely.
Another question from Claire, talking about the comparisons made with other international varieties. So
that's always a very tricky question, but and it has to be taken with let's say a pinch of salt, but with a lot of flexibility there. So, and it's a matter of personal taste, what we see in the variety. So I mean, the interesting thing about taste is it can be very much an individual experience, and I think the great work that WSET School is doing, and any similar sort of body, is that we try to systematize something that is very subjective. which is great, because in that way we learn to use a common language, common terms to describe essentially a personal experience. So I think for Malagousia, I would approximate it with a lot again of room for other interpretations, with some southern Italian grape varieties. Some of them by name, they originate from Greece, as Catarato, Fiano. So that would be my tendency. Xinomavro, I think, flavor-wise, it's close to Nebbiolo, but again, depending on the style, you can go off to Pinot Noir, and there are different Pinot Noirs. Obviously, there are the cool Pinot Noirs of Central Europe, and there are the New World Pinot Noirs, which are warmer. And then I think even other varieties, Cabernet Franc, perhaps, you can see some similarities there, but obviously not as much as Nebbiolo and Pinot Noir. So I think Pinot Noir and Nebbiolo are definitely flavor-wise grapes that can stand next to Xinomavro. But again, you have a core of characteristics, and then you have lots around it as well, lots of differentiating flavors.
Yeah, great, thank you. So moving up from Britt's fantastic and enticing tasting note, there was a question about food and wine pairing for these wines.
Oh, that's actually easy. That's an easy question to answer, because Greek wines are made for food, and Greeks have been drinking wine with food. I think this has to do very much with the terroir, and here we are having also wines that they are not manipulated, in the sense that natural yeasts are being used. There is no manipulation to achieve a specific style, which is, let's say, a style of a sipping wine that has to be light and so on. So definitely these wines go with food. So for Malagousia, we would go for anything with greens, salads, vegetable casseroles, seafood, especially this Malagousia, which is a tight, elegant Malagousia, would definitely go with grilled white fish. Has the concentration. Seafood, as we said, beautiful with scallops, calamari. You can elaborate a lot. I mean, for this one, I would even dare some cold cuts of pork. The rosé wine is beautiful again with risottos, salads with a little bit of fruit inside, maybe pomegranate or apricot nectarine slices. So it's I think once you taste these wines, you understand why they are food wines. They're truly appetizing and have a full mouth. So they are coating well. They are able to get into a dialogue with the food. So they're not refreshments. They are not just drinking matter. So for the rosé, I said salads. I think the ideal pairing for me for the rosé will be a green salad with some cheese, with some goat cheese and a non-aged cheese, and some elements of fruit and molasses, maybe pomegranate, fruits and slices of nectarine. And the red wine is obviously calls for meat and mature cheese, and the ideal pairing to Xinomavro is lamb, also wild boar, but also game. This particular one has a very round character. I mean, obviously, tasting through different wines, you see, how the range of a grape. I think that's important as well for educational purposes and for pleasure as well. So this one is a round and warm Xinomavro with tight tannin still. So I would definitely try with game, wild boar, and even beef. Yes, and mature cheese. Some nuts on the side. tomato and black olive based chutneys, not so much vinegar in it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good pairing.
It's approaching dinner time here in the UK, so you've made us all very hungry. You mentioned the tight tannins, and Dennis had a question about the aging potential and how that will sort of change the wine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Xinomavro is renowned for very sensitive phenols, so light color, high tannins, and sort of penetrating sharp tannins, angle tannins, and relatively low alcohol. So all really the full body potential and aging potential lies on the very particular phenols and the tannins. So it's characteristic of the Xinomavro. And young, well extracted Xinomavros are tannic. So people may find this a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning. So, I mean, this wine, in my experience, really tastes young. I mean, the aromas are becoming rounder, but the wine is still quite fierce with very sort of very pronounced, prominent tannins. So I think with a food, these wines become meaningful, definitely. It is one of the important elements of its aging potential, the tannins, but it integrates beautifully with a wine later on with the other elements. So yes, Xinomavro is known for sort of angled tannins, penetrating tannins.
Great, thank you. The hour's sort of nearly up, but we've got a few more minutes for any further questions, if there are any, or if there's anything that I've missed going back through the chat.
Yes, Malagousia has been used for dessert wines. Absolutely. And
yes, absolutely.
Because of its aromatic, interesting and rich aromatic character, is really a suitable wine grape variety for sweet wines, dessert wines. So the winemaker that produces the Xinomavro we tasted, Tatsis Winery, they produce in some years an aged sweet Malagousia as well, and the aromas are unbelievable. Obviously, you have the coating of the oak aromas as well, but it is a great variety. So if we think that Muscat Blanc is the most well-known variety for producing dessert wines in Greece, it could be that Malagousia, not alone, but is another quite an interesting variety for sweet wines.
And what's the acidity levels like? And
the acidity levels, again, it depends on the wine, on the cultivation, on the vine growing. Acidity levels in Malagousia are a medium to medium high, so they are not piercing. They are not very high. So, for example, Xinomavro is renowned for high acidity, high tannins. Malagousia is more moderated in acidity and has some tannins, still being a white grape. But it's yes, I think depending on how you cultivate. So obviously, if you take care, you cultivate at high altitude, you are careful on harvest, maintaining the grapes, slow ripening, managing slow ripening, managing the training of the vines, and so on. I think you can improve the acidity levels, but normally we are somewhere medium or medium high acidity, depending on the cultivation.
Great, thank you. A very good D1 answer there as well, exploding acidity. Great. Well, I think is there any more in the queue?
I think.
There's one more. Yeah. So about are many producers working organically, and yeah, another question from Claire on the Q&A. Yeah. Oh no, we've done them. Sorry.
The organic. I'm not. I don't have latest figures, and I think it is changing in the sense that some wineries they aim to achieve organic certification. So I think definitely we have more wineries cultivating organically, but cannot certify the wines from bottling onwards. Or there can be wineries that can bottle and vinify in an organic manner, but the cultivation may not be organic. So basically, I think it is a changing scenery there. But definitely more and more wineries become interested in organic cultivation, and they take the effort to certify it, because they are two different things. And I think it adds commercial value. So I think it's worth doing that.
Great. Yeah, sorry, Claire, I'm not used to looking between the Q&A section and the chat. I've been going backwards and forwards. Great. I think if we have the last sort of question, you might have touched on this a bit, it's just to back onto the sweet wines and whether they sort of dried grapes or botrytis is used.
Exactly. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen it. Greek winemakers, they do not like botrytis. They are not used to it. They prefer to harvest dry and make the wines in the way they know. Also, sweet wines are not very much consumed in Greece. They are liked, but they're not really consumed in large quantities. So I think commercially, sweet wine, other than the one that is used for traditional religious ceremonies and so on, doesn't have really a big market in Greece. And as I said, the winemakers, they do not know how to fully take advantage of the botrytis. So we haven't seen that. I mean, we have seen a one-off vintage of a sweet wine by Tatsis of Xinomavro and Negoska. So he noticed botrytis on some on a plot, and he made a sweet wine on one particular year of red sweet wine. But and also it's quite hot in Greece, I think, in the summer when there is a harvest time for the white grapes. So perhaps you can see it later on in the season when the rains start, but not early on. So I think it's unusual. I mean, and also I think the winemakers, they're not comfortable with that. So I think we are not there for the white sweet wines.
No, fair enough. Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and particularly thanks to Maria for taking us through. I think we've gone through all the questions. So